This is the Campfire Passport podcast, and I'm joined by Colin, who is my favorite co-host. I'm going to change your job every single time we do an intro because I think that's important. This podcast is going to be pretty fun because everybody's going to go over the McGrew Trail camp trip, which I didn't make. So, spoiler alert, there's going to be no me on this podcast. And also, they're not even going to talk about me. That's how little I was involved. I'm pretty sure there was absolutely zero mention of me loaning my fridge to Mike or, anything. None of it. So I'm not saying that I'm upset about it, but I am a little bit mad that there was just not even 2 minutes maybe dedicated to talking about me. I guess it's my punishment for not getting my shit together, which was no surprise, I think, to anybody that heard the tone of my voice in the last podcast. That was I'm exactly in the same spot as I was then, by the way. So before the guys kick me out and take over and do the podcast without me, what do you got, Colin? What's going on?
So just want to mention that wherever you listen, also go check out the YouTube version because there are clips in there from the trip as kind of context video, just like there was for the Alvord recap pods that we did. And outside of that, just sit down and enjoy, I guess.
Oh, yeah, and get ready. Notice for headphone users, Mike Palmer digs through a fridge for at least 15 minutes, which everybody's going to love.
Don't worry, I cut that out.
Okay, that's probably good.
I have an opener I'd like to start with you guys. I really wanted to express how different that trail was for me than what I thought it was going to be. Because when we first started, we were talking about, oh yeah, it's going to be like 20 miles of Edison. And then we pop out into this burn, and all of a sudden we're riding along this hillside, and there's a memorial because it's so dang steep. A guy rolled off, Jason Roberts. I sent you guys the story about it after I did some research. I don't want to get into it. It was a tragic thing, and I think that is a topic for another podcast, not this one. But what it did lead me into is I did some digging into comparing the hillside skirting that we did both at the end of McGrew and then on our way out. And I wanted to compare it to the famous switchback there at Black Bear. So the worst angle of the hill on McGrew is actually 39 degrees. Putting it into perspective, the worst part of the switchback on Black Bear is 41 degrees. So
that's
2
almost
degree
2
difference.
degrees difference.
Yes.
Whoa.
Which is negligible when you're sitting there white knuckling your steering wheel looking at a memorial.
Yeah, that's 1 PSI in your tires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another little comparison. So this is horizontal distance. I did not do the math to get your full total distance. If you roll down Black Bear at the very first switchback, you have 1,700 feet of horizontal distance that you would be rolling down. At the worst of McGrew, we have 2,000 feet.
Oh, good.
So
where's that 2 degrees come into play? Like
let me bust
1,701.
Let me bust out the SOHCAHTOA really quick.
Do the math.
But
if you're rolling 1/4 of a mile,
I've got my abacus, and we're just gonna keep
likely
sliding.
have a head injury.
Yeah.
So I just really wanted to open with that to like really bring into light how crazy that part of the trail was. And it was for me. As soon as we
Yeah.
came out, I was like, holy shit, this is not what I was expecting. So, um, Colin, kind of want to hear what you had a little bit in your research on the trail, not just about the trail and what it entailed as far as obstacles, but even some of the history behind it, if you have some of that.
Yeah, like some of the main things were, as far as when I did all the research to A, find it, and then B, figure out what the terrain and what the actual trail itself was going to be like. There, I mean, it's pretty limited as far as information goes. I'm sure there'll be more as things go on, but I will say it was, like you said, a lot different than what I had expected. Like it was, yeah, there was a few harder obstacles, but they did have go arounds. Not that any of us used them because we actually wanted to, you know, do some wheeling. But the fact that it was 22 miles from the gate to camp, and most of it was like just kind of beating on you the whole time. It was not just like a regular forest road to an obstacle and then a forest road to another obstacle. It was weird side hills with, you know, large bumps on the side that tip you towards the side hill to make it feel even,
Yeah.
you know, even more butt puckery. And then it would get to
Yeah.
an actual obstacle and you'd get to like do a short little wheeling job in the obstacles. That super narrow, uh, like overgrown almost section. No one has ever talked about that at all that I've ever seen. So that was
Yeah.
pretty unexpected. And it was, I mean, that was a good few miles where it was just narrow, and like weird side hill things to like get around a tree and stuff like that. So that was a weird one. And then that last like long section of optional quote unquote wheeling lines, that's also never, I've never seen anyone have video or anything from that entire section either. It's basically just
That
that
one
big first
caught me off
obstacle,
guard.
and then yeah, same. And then the bowl
Mhm.
are basically the only things that you really see people say, "Oh, these are the wheeling obstacles." So
Yeah, the
I thought
bowl
that
we
that
made
was kind of
quick
different.
work of.
Uh, don't put me in that sum. Tyson, you made quick work of that.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we all got through that so fast. Like we stopped for a moment and Colin said the bowl is about 200 yards up and I'm like, "Okay, cool. This is going to be fun. We're going to spend a little time here." And I mean, we all got through it really quick.
Well, Tyson did it in third
It
gear.
was cool. It felt like it. Yeah, it's steep going in. I had to left foot brake, being a manual, just trying to get a little control of the downhill roll. Um, Geared low as I am, still was a little faster than I wanted to go, but yeah, we'll see how many dents we can put and share.
Would you notice more?
No, I wouldn't.
But that's the beauty of
Like
it.
when Mike mentioned on one of the last times that I put a giant dent in the right rocker. Did I? I don't know.
Hearsay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Allegedly.
door
I
still
watched The
opens.
Rock
That's
roll
good.
with him. Yeah.
The dents I
Yeah.
notice are the ones in the transmission cross member that keep me out of 4 low. So I have to manually remove the linkage, put it in 4 low, secure linkage somewhere, and go.
So,
Well,
Colin, back to the trail really quick. after the bowl, we came to that T and we took a right. If we would have taken a left there, doesn't that take us back to just kind of the main road?
So it would have taken us back to, if I'm not mistaken, the road back out that we were on, and it may have. I haven't re-looked. I probably should at some point. But remember when we stopped because I was having a noise that went away from my front axle, and Carlton pointed out that ridge road that like came straight down one of the hills, like off in the distance that we had already passed. I believe that it would have linked into that and come back through that direction. So essentially cutting, half
So
of the trail out.
Got it.
yeah, so a lot of people could take that left and avoid these quote unquote surprises.
Yeah.
You mean the
and
good
I'm
obstacles?
And I'm guessing no, because it's still after the bowl, but I'm guessing that that's like those like I had brought up while we were out there, the videos of the Bronco Club going through there with all their like nice painted Broncos and whatnot. I'm wondering if that's what they do, is they take the left there and pull out, because continuing to go in a Bronco, which is easily as wide as, as my car, through there, nobody with a fresh paint, like nice restored that they quote wheel Bronco, is going to want to go through that. So the tight brush areas anyway. So maybe that's why there's not a lot about that last like section, which, okay, cool. Kind of, you also then miss out on that super sketchy ridge road that has the really cool views and the unfortunate memorial.
You get more diversity if you take a right. Diversity and adversity.
And adversity.
Just
right.
Just versity. Yeah.
All sorts
All
of
the
versities.
Well, and my coworker who had went, the one thing she had mentioned was what she had quoted, Pinstripe Alley, because there was someone in a brand new Tacoma that was absolutely, upset at the end of that 1 mile section of what seemed to be Manzanita on steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Angry trees.
Like I said,
Lots of scraping noises, lots of
new cars,
nails on chalkboard sounds.
Yeah, like those two.
And it looked like they had one of those newer like Illumicab stuff, so they were getting really dinged.
Yeah, those Lexus. It was like a Lexus and like a 200 series or something that were headed in when we were leaving, and so I'm guessing they're not going to be super happy if they don't already know about that. Like that's not going to be their favorite part.
No, that was a rough part of the trail.
It scratched my soft top and my glass like a ton. Well, not glass, I guess plastic windows, but just scratched the crud out of it. I just painted this before we left, and it's all scratched up. Like, it was great.
Oh man, it dented the door too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like that before. You should see. Did you get it from this angle?
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, Colin says he's the only one that got real body damage.
Steve, I'm very interested to kind of hear your thoughts on the trail, because you did have a friend do it, but also, in no disrespect, you're kind of you're the greenest of the group. This is your first real trail, right?
Yeah, that was the first time I had been in Four Low for that amount of time in one section. And just like Colin had said, of just being pounded for that amount of time. I was expecting some of that, but I don't think at any time did I feel like, overtly uncomfortable, both watching you guys and being around your guys' inspiration didn't make it very hard at all to just be like, all right, I got it. I'll just follow him. Didn't look too bad watching a lifted, lifted JK on 37s just walk through it. Well, I can do that on 33s and at Tacoma and longer wheelbase. Sure.
But you did. But you
And less
did.
lockers. 3-wheel
But
drive.
you did.
I mean, I did also find out that, at one point in time I had thought, what's 1 inch of ground clearance? Well, 1 inch of ground clearance is shaving a rock on the exit of a bowl.
Yeah. Hey, an inch will do a lot, bud. Don't.
Yeah. But it was more fun than I had thought. It was more pounding than I thought. It was whether it was the heat or the trail or a combination of it, it felt pretty grueling, but in a very fun way.
Cool.
Yeah.
But at no point did I feel overwhelmed or feel like there wasn't an available out option to just clearly go around a very easier option.
That's true. They did have a lot of turnouts.
But not to say that the other probably 20 miles of that road is still very, very bumpy, very challenging. And, any of the other obstacles were not at the points where it's very tippy. You're never having to do any of those obstacles in a cliffside situation. All of those are in a very manageable format.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to do that bowl on the hillside of something would be, a lot more intense. Or some of those switchbacks being on the hillside, coming the other, like maybe coming down might be a little bit difficult on some of those, or feel a little bit more, off camber because you're coming in tipping downhill versus tipping into the hill.
Yeah, that'd be a little more sketchy for sure.
I don't think you're supposed to do that backwards.
No.
Yeah.
But not that, I mean...
I've never seen anything... Yeah.
Don't say that.
Odd, but I've never seen anything about going the other way. I mean, the thing is, though, is you go the other way, you're going to end at a gate, and then you get to go all the way back. So it's like, well, unless you got, as we've proven, unless you've got 14 hours to do that. And imagine
I think we
how
made good
worn
time
out,
too.
Yeah, but imagine how worn out we were at the end of that to then get to the end and be like, okay, now we get to turn around and do that again in this worn out state, because that's, I mean, like I said, it's that trail.
Oh yeah.
Tough obstacles.
Some of those spots I would just take the easy route just because
far in between.
I don't need to prove it to myself. Plus, some of those things are even easier on the down versus coming up through that pinch rock section. So, are you really going to dive in there again?
Yeah, it's just a
and
matter
that's
of how
anticipating you don't run into someone who is going the right way.
It's going the proper way.
True.
Yeah. In one of the spots where you have nowhere to get around them.
Yeah, which is 90% of the trail.
Even on the road down into Sourdough, how the fuck are you supposed to get around one of those a full size carrying a trailer?
Oh yeah,
no way.
And then back up where? Back up.
Yeah,
where?
you just have to reverse until you reverse until you fall off the cliff, and then the other person goes.
Yeah, it's a game of chicken, really, is what it is.
2-man enter, 1-man leave.
Yeah,
that's right.
What you need to be doing is just laying on your horn when you enter into that. So anybody down who's on the first 100 feet might be like, you know what? I'm going to back up because it sounds like someone's coming down.
No, they go, you know what? I'm going to go ahead because I think I could beat them.
No, because they're cutting firewood.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I do want to mention, I did double check when we got back. It is not fire cutting wood season in that area, and nor can you have campfires in that area right now.
Yeah, the sun
Why would the fire be cutting wood?
Literally, I thought camp was going to burst into flames around 4:30
Yeah.
when my fridge
Yeah.
cut off.
I just know that guy is going to feel real embarrassed when he listens to this, and he's going to be like, oh, shit.
Hey, guy with the T-shirt that says "Bullets are my
Oh,
friends."
man.
We don't like you.
Also, like, what kind of shirt is that?
I don't
You know, in
know.
hindsight, I feel really awful about what I did. Is not a thing in the vocabulary.
Changed his life.
Not sure that's ever been uttered for him.
You're welcome.
Self-awareness, not strong.
You're welcome, Glenn. He's probably a Glenn. He seems
So,
like a
Dan?
Glenn.
Steve, Steve, I do want to
Oh.
elaborate a little bit on your point of having that. Well, what's the difference in 1 inch of clearance? I learned that really fast on the first obstacle,
Mm-hmm.
and getting immediately stuck and getting the dunce cap. I know that Colin had another little when he didn't lock his hubs in, but that was very minor compared to mine. But I'm interested to hear if anybody else kind of had like a break-in phase to the trail, or were you just like gung-ho to get on it and you were ready to rock?
No, I spent my whole break-in phase stacking rocks for you, Jesse.
Oh, thank you.
I think I started
Yeah.
off that trail in 4 high, and within the first 200 feet, stopped and made sure I was in 4 low because it didn't seem like I was ever going to be needing high range whatsoever from what it
Yeah.
looked like.
Yeah,
The
can
steep
If
confirm.
the first 300 feet had anything to say for the trail, it was okay, 4 low. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, same here. I put it in 4 low, and I was in 4 low like until we left, because I
No,
can disconnect the sway bar in 4 low, and that makes
Yep.
a world of difference and all the off camber and goofy stuff. When I had it connected, I felt like I was going to get thrown all over the place, and just having it disconnected made a big difference. So for me, it was 4 low from the get go. That's also the only way I have enough power to get up most of those hills. It just doesn't. I don't have much power, and I have uh, the wrong gearing for the tire size. Except that it worked pretty well every time I was down low. So um, stuck with that, and everything went pretty smooth. I probably should have aired down more. I rattled a lot of stuff apart. My front track bar bracket came off as I got home. Just like the last, I don't know, mile, I lost it, and 2 bolts were missing. The rest were hand tight. And I was getting death wobble on my way into the driveway. But
Gnarly.
got that all fixed, and now it's all Loctited, and it's back in action. I got to realign the front because it turns out I did an alignment based off of a loose bracket, and nothing is where it's supposed to be. But yeah, it was good to just be. I don't know. We're 4-wheeling all weekend. It was really cool.
Yeah. So on
Yeah, I
on
mean-
that note, Mike, what did everyone air down to?
I just went
20?
down to 20 and probably should have remembered that I wasn't near as hot as I was at that point. So I think my 20 at that time was a cold 20 and needed to probably be like a cold 17 because it was eventually going to heat up and be at 20. Because when I went to
Yeah.
air up, everything was at 22 to 23. So it's like, well, at that point, that's no more than what I do on normal gravel. So
Yeah.
I would say I would go down to what is on a temperature gauge, 17.
Yeah, I was at 20, and when I went to air up, it was at 25. So it was probably way too high. I could have gone down quite a bit more.
I was
Yeah,
at
that's
15
oof.
in the old XJ.
But 33s on 16, it is kind of more of a bead issue versus if I was on a 17,
Yeah,
I could
that's a good
much
point.
comfortably run in the 12s and not feel like I'm going to push a bead.
Well, and you
Well,
had
it's
the
not
lowest
necessarily
lift
the
of the
bead.
group, and so your tires get too short.
Yeah, that's more the issue.
Yeah.
There is just not having enough side.
I had
pull and how much lower
one of
that
the
makes
longer
you.
wheelbases, right, with the least amount of ground clearance.
Yeah, yeah.
Technically, Steve, we
bigger
have the same
tires.
lift.
Yeah, but you're on 37s versus.
Yeah.
I said, are we still longer than the Wagoneer, or is it fairly close?
Yeah, you're longer. Like the Wagoneer is still overall, it's basically the same size as an 80 series with like a slightly shorter wheelbase actually than an 80.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean I went down to 12, and like you said, that was cold by the time we got back, and yeah, cold 12 is actually a hot 15. So I mean, I probably
And
could have gone to 10 and been okay. But I will say I don't envy you guys that had 20 over some of those roads, because even for me at 12 to 15, it was still noticeably rough. But also I'm in a lot older vehicle that has a lot more squeaks and creaks than than you guys probably do as well.
I mean,
It didn't. Yeah, it
I
didn't feel too
certainly
terribly rough.
noticed and cursed my front sway bar that entire time, because there was a couple times where uh, I expected it to get kind of tossed around, but it was pretty violent a few times where it's like, God damn it.
I think this is a cool, interest, or another little interesting bit about the vehicles that we brought is we had a full leaf sprung rig in the Waggy. We had IFS leaf spring in the two Tacomas, and then we had the links and coils, front, leafs rear in the XJ, and then coils all the way around in the Wagoneer. And
No,
the part when I
Wrangler.
really realized the difference between
the
those, oh,
JK.
sorry,
Yeah,
the JK. And the part that I really realized the difference in those two is watching you, Colin, and the Waggy go over that part that where Harper had to get out when we first were like, "Ooh, that's a little tippy." And then I'm looking at you and I'm like, "That's tippy." And then I see Mike go over it and it's like, "Nope, that's nothing." It feels it feels
Yeah.
like we overblew the situation.
Yeah, I mean it was a weird
well,
spot, and it was a bad side hill too. So like with a cliff edge, and then to add to that how big the Waggy is, and so it's large,
Mm-hmm.
it's heavy, it's pretty tall. So it and then yes, the with the Leafs and no sway bars, it
and a
pitched
tent
me
on
over
top.
and a tent, yeah. It pitched me over a lot
Yeah.
more than I think it pitched everybody else over. But I did see the look on your face when you went through it, Jesse, and in noticing, oh, that is a little more tippy than I was expecting. So
I'm really glad that was not on the severe hillside skirting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I want to talk about there were sections that seemed like they were not that big a deal because they had greenery on either side of us, but we were
Mhm.
still side hilling and there was still like a 200-foot drop. It was
Yeah.
just like you felt fine because there was a bush there. Like it was just
Yeah, out of
vastly.
sight, out of
We
mind.
all sped through it like it was nothing, and I was like, wait a minute, if you dip a tire here, you've got a ways to go. It was all young growth.
Yeah,
yeah,
it
Also,
was.
I feel like there's something to say for our group when we get in a line and we're just following each other, where we're just kind of instantly having fun and instantly just going from A to B, and that's just kind of what it is. So
Hmm.
it just is assume role and assume format and just kind of go.
yeah. Until someone has an
True.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and Colin's rig is always capable but dramatic somehow.
Uh, um, I want to touch really on our differences in our preparations and how your preparations worked out specifically uh, to you guys, because I didn't take much different. But we did spend a lot of time in the last podcast thinking about our prep for this trail. So starting with Colin, kind of give me your perspective. Did you feel underprepared, overprepared? Do you feel, yeah, what would you do different? Or that kind of stuff.
Uh, I mean, I think as far as capability wise, it was about as good as it's gonna get. I'm outside of finally getting lockers, but I mean, I could have done it on 35s and would have been fine, but the 37s definitely meant I got to do the hard line on that first obstacle, which was cool because I when I first saw that obstacle in videos and stuff, I knew I wanted to try the hard line. I mean, for me,
Which one was
it's
that?
mostly that. Oh, good one. Yeah. For me, mostly the prep stuff that I still need to work on is just like the camping side of things, but just because I'm like very what's the word I'm looking for? Very primitive in my setup, which is weird coming from the Range Rover that was like everything was very set and like put together well, and so going from that to just like strapping some boxes down in the cargo area is a very odd transition. So outside of that, I think I'm pretty happy with what I did prep wise. Just got to keep building stuff. I don't know about. I mean, I know Mike's prep was basically nothing. So we'll see.
Hold
what he
on.
thinks of having,
Now I
having
brought
a fridge.
this. I was a borrowed fridge. I brought this. That was good. It's worthwhile looking
Was.
thing to have.
Going to be the new zero G pooper chair, though, for sure.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Zero G poops.
Sit right over a bucket.
It's where that collapsible bucket's going to come in primo. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Set your height.
I will
You
say,
just
I
put
think
the
best.
bag through the hole, and you're set.
No,
Staple
because
it.
then if you lose compression, you're going to sit on the bag. It's a thing where you need bump stops. You don't want to bottom out on the bag.
It's a calculated risk.
No, that's not.
That's the
That's
price
not a
of
calculated
freedom,
risk you
Steve.
take. That is outside. You stop
It isn't free.
before it goes back in. What comes out does not come back in, especially in the bucket world.
While we are on the topic of pooping, I will say, I will admit I was wrong. The bucket pooping is the life. And
Yep.
even if I have to haul the garbage shit from all 5 of you plus the 3 kids, sorry, 6 adult humans and 3 kids.
No, everybody took their own shit home. Who put their shit
Um,
in your trash?
I felt like a lot of people did.
Not once.
I carried
Not
mine.
once for
I
me.
carried mine. Sorry, Charlie.
Colin's gonna raise his hand.
Jesse just had some awful shit and he didn't want to claim them.
No.
You and Carlton.
Those are a lot of shit in those bags. But anyway, I will admit I was wrong. The bucket life Steve is primo. Sitting with my feet in the crick at 7 in the morning, taking my nice morning dews. It's another level.
We took, without talking, the same video.
On the shared camera like photo album, there's like probably 3 to 4 pictures, at least one from almost everyone, where they took with their phone out on the pooper in a river or creekside or And when I show it to
memorable.
people, they're like, "You can't poop that close to a river," and it's like,
Can't
back it out.
Like, so it's a way to get around a lot of things in that way. That you don't have to worry about how close we are to having to literally poop next to rivers sometimes, in which you shouldn't be fucking doing that, and you also shouldn't just be throwing your strawberries when you're upstream. Okay, at least pitch them up.
Catching those downstream. I had them in my hand. I was like, "Who is this? What is this?"
Unless you're gonna drop a few uneaten strawberries.
There's a guy who drank just a little bit of river water.
Hey, that's risk. Is that calculated risk or not?
No, it was an accident.
So
forgot the can was empty.
The luggable loo, we have been gifted one by our dear friend Steve here. I did not bring it. I brought a shovel thinking that this was going to be enough. The thing that I did not anticipate is the rocky terrain. You do not shovel in rocky terrain. So
No.
right back to bucket pooping, primo. It's the best
Well,
thing to
Everyone
have
doesn't need
to
to
be
bring a bucket.
prepared.
From
And
anybody who
heat.
carries a bucket, we all know how inconvenient they are. So it's
But it's
Well,
just
also
really,
a
if someone
bucket
says,
you
"Hey,
can
I
put
got a bunch
stuff
of
in it.
bags," it's true. Yeah.
I want to point out the heat difference. If we had to shit anywhere that wasn't down by the river, it would have been like an extra 30 degrees every time anybody took a deuce. Except Tyson, who did it in a sauna for
Yeah,
privacy's
but it made
sake.
the outside feel a lot better.
It's 103, and Tyson zipped into a room so he could shit alone. And
So
Yeah.
hot.
so I tried to
It was
change in
either
there for like a minute, and I was like,
103 walking somewhere to find shade, or do 110 in the tent briefly just to come out and be like, oh, thank God it's only 103 out here. Makes a difference. Makes a difference.
So Tyson, I actually do really want to hear about Share. My first point to share is I love that goddamn Jeep so much. Um, it seemed like it kicked ass. You put in a lot of work to get ready for this trail to bring Share. I mean, remember there was even a point where there was almost a might not get to bring Share. Um, so I definitely want to hear about you and your experience with your prep and how Share did.
So I did touch on the last podcast that I was going to try to do a clutch. That was a big deal. I have never done a clutch. I've owned it for 7 or 8 years now, and it's always been difficult to get into gear. I figured this would be a trip where I'd want to be switching gears. So I was able to hammer out the clutch. Uh, that was a very smart idea because, yeah, you're going to be going in and out of gear either to get out and film people wheeling or for whatever obstacle you're doing. The parking brake decided to loosen itself at one
God.
point. Oh, that was almost, boy, we were like half an hour into the trail. We stopped for
Mhm.
something, I don't know, get a trail soda or just check air pressures. I don't remember what it was. And I was behind the Jeep and it just started rolling backward toward Steve's truck. Steve was behind me. And somehow I had the swing
Also
out
you.
open and right, yeah, I was behind it as well.
Yeah.
That's how I found out that it was rolling back. I somehow scrambled in and jumped on the brakes. I mean, by the time I turned it off, put it in gear, set the brake that I didn't trust anymore again, and the swing out was, oh, I mean, inch and a half, 2 inches from touching Steve's bumper. It was so close. So
No, but
didn't trust.
had your swing out not been open, your tire would have hit.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
the
went
tire
around
would have
him.
been just as close. Yeah.
But at
So
the
Yeah.
same point, like you stepped around
I don't
back,
know
you
how
were back
lucky that was.
behind. When it started to roll back, I almost thought, should I actually like roll forward and keep his truck from continuing to gain any more speed?
Well, I'm
You
glad
know,
you
versus
didn't.
like, well, move out of the way. Well, okay, how I'd have to keep going pretty far back. It's like,
Yeah,
whoa,
that.
whoa.
So that was the first sketchy thing Cher did. But as far as prep goes, mechanically, that the clutch was the best decision I could have made. When it came down to the other components that I'd put in, the bigger axle in the back, the Dana 44, the lunchbox locker, I'd tested that with Mike and that felt good, so I was confident in that. But like Colin, it was the camping side of things. I had an auxiliary battery that I hadn't tested how it was going to work. It ended up not working, so I had to do a lot of workarounds to keep the fridge in the 50s. Um, so that was kind of a bummer. I just drilled a bunch of holes for some D-ring brackets just to use ratchet straps and hold down all of our bins because I knew we were going to be bouncing around. Otherwise, she did great. No sway bars was a good choice. It went up everything I wanted it to. I do kind of regret not trying that first difficult line that you and Colin took, Jesse. So if I were to go back and do it, I would definitely take that line. Knowing I'm a shorter wheelbase, I don't think I'd get caught in the same holes. Also, being able to turn sharper to the right rather than the left after putting the Durango steering box on. I don't know if that would be a game changer. So yeah, that's another thing to figure out. But overall, yeah, I'm just impressed. 326,000 original miles on the 4-liter. Rings, smoke. It ended up dying once, not wanting to start. Ended up hammering the fuel tank to get the fuel pump back going. And then fortunately, Jesse was trailing us as we left, because just getting onto pavement again, I had zero power. And it was funny because Mike mentioned something about I'm gonna need to clean my air filter after all this dust, and we're like, this isn't that kind of dust. No, it's not that kind of dust. Well, I haven't cleaned my air filter for like 3 years, and it's that kind of dust. So that's
Well, I don't.
yeah, take care of your air filters.
People can't see Cher on the podcast, but I feel that Cher is the epitome of you
They
don't
can, though,
have
Jesse,
to be
on
some
YouTube.
rich. Yes.
Go to Campfire
That's right,
Passport
they can.
YouTube where you're
Campfire
watching
Passport
this.
YouTube.
On the YouTube. Yeah, I'll splice in some stuff. There you go.
Like, follow, subscribe.
I just love that Cher is the epitome of you don't have to be some rich influencer to get out, go camping, and do trails like we do. You don't have to have a third gen Tacoma. You don't have to have a JK. You can have a 300 and how many miles again, Tyson?
326,000 and change.
326,000 and change, where the tent's worth more than the truck. Sport Coupe XJ. And you can go
Find
out
a
and wheel.
$1,000 XJ and just get behind the wheel and go. I
Fucking
mean,
go, man.
I'll tell you. So here's the tidbit for finding cheap XJs. Do not go on Craigslist, Cars and Trucks. Do not go on Facebook Marketplace. Go where it's like barter, where it's parts, because you're going to find someone that has an XJ that is quote unquote parts, and all it's going to take is like $50 from an auto parts store. You put a new distributor on it, you put a new fuel pump in it, and then you just go put dents in that thing, and you don't give a shit. Just put dents in it, and you're going to get, I mean, I'm going to say I probably have the least legitimate wheeling experience, maybe aside from Steve. I feel like Steve and I probably on par, but just go get seat time. Seat time is where it's at. It's the experience. That's where you're having the most fun, making friends, starting podcasts, film everything, show your friends, get them into it too, make the XJ price go up, stonks.
So what you're saying is that we've proven that the 4-liter is very reliable, but you're going to have to fix some shit along the way. And the
That's
little
right.
stuff is what people go, well, she used to run, but you're like, well, this could be very simple, but it's never going to be like, well, I have to pull the motor out. It's like, no.
You can rebuild the motor in the truck. That's one of my favorite things about an XJ. You can take the head off, you can take the pan, the oil pan off, engine is still in, and you can rebuild everything. It's awesome.
But you're not going to do that with
Put
Yeah,
dents in it.
Yep. No.
No. I'll pull it out and I'll build that 4-liter into a stroker. She's been too good. She deserved long life.
Maybe at like 500,000 miles, though. We'll wait that out.
Right. When it gets to the point that I have to add oil as frequently as fuel, then I'll think about it.
Yeah, when it's like a 2-stroke.
Or consider mixing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 2-stroke.
I don't think that's a lead. This isn't lead additive. This is a 40 weight.
Right. When she's strictly on 2050 every 1,000 miles, yeah, I'll think about
Why
it.
is there an extra injector? Well, that's for the oil.
That's the oil.
Oil injection. Yeah,
Steve, I do want to hear. Oh, sorry, Colin, go for it.
Go for it. I was headed to Steve as well because I was mainly because kind of looping back on his capability in the fact that like he might have been not only like the least experienced, but also maybe, if we're splitting hairs, might have been the least capable technically. Not that it's an incapable vehicle, but you know, it's got a locker, but it's pretty low. It's got 33s, and I mean, he didn't try the hardest line on the first obstacle, which not surprising because when we saw Jesse get turtled, it was pretty obvious that Steve would have a worse time with that.
That share pulled Jesse off of. That's how capable an XJ is.
Yes.
Well, that was a lot about like approach angle and ground clearance, where it's like I can't look about crawling up a 16-inch wall face because I don't have the ground clearance to clear it, and will either turtle on my diff or driveline or a slider, and then it's no.
Yeah, but you did mention prep. It was funny to see you kick your prep gear into high end after the pod. So when you had literally less than a week to get everything hammered out, and you suddenly, hey guys, I got this. Hey guys, I did this.
Yeah. Well, Jesse helped quite a bit with a lot of that because he ended up having some, usual runoff, which you just wait for the stuff to roll down the hill when you get into a friend group, and then you just pick up what people are like, well, I'm not using this anymore. So I got an air mattress from Jesse, which allowed me to put all my bedding in the tent, which is a huge game changer, just having more room in there and not having to set up every morning. I grabbed an awning from him, which we rigged up off some gusseted mounts off Amazon, which are ridiculously underpriced. Went on pretty easy, minimal micro fags. Had to trim down a washer to slide in that channel. We had talked about at the end of the last pod about getting any additional tent of the aluminum tent clips.
Yep.
But I just ended up making my own. And then went ahead and pulled the trigger on buying an actual cook stove on a 5-pound and not using butane cans. Well, I still carry that little butane, Japanese grill because it's just too small and too easy to carry. Yeah. But having a refillable 5-pound and not have to carry 4 green cans each time is incredible. And
and it's only $3 to fill instead of $10 each thing.
Yeah. And then to feel bad about just wastefulness, where it's like I'm not going to refill these each time, and how many times am I going to refill them? Do I want to go through all that? No, I'd rather just refill a can that I can strap down and be done with, and then not be limited on the pressure regulator that ices up when you're trying to go to a higher pressure, which is basically how the green cans have to work. Which, I think Tyson's had that issue. There's a reason why I have Colin's old Coleman is because it just ices up. You can't use that stuff very much where it freezes up way too quickly.
Mhm.
But all my preps seem to work out. I would have only just purchased more armor, because certainly being on the lowest ground clearance, I would have used every single bit of it. But yeah,
And your new stove that I told you not to get, but then everybody else reminded you Jesse's an idiot. You should get that stove.
Yeah, don't listen to
And
Jesse
I'm very
when it comes to
grateful
cooking
because
stuff.
I ate 2 of those burgers and they were fantastic, Steve.
Oh God,
I was in a
incredible.
meat coma.
Mm-hmm.
Meat sweats all night
Mhm.
long.
worth
Don't
it.
bother me. Leave me alone. Stay away.
No, the convenience factor of it was very nice, even though it's a whole new cleaning method, having to degrease your tailgate.
Mhm.
That is rust mitigation, friend.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it looks like Armorall.
Yeah, nice shiny tailgate.
Yeah, no, it's clean as shit. You'd be like, wow, this is incredible. Though I do need to get one of the flat tailgate inserts to get rid of the corrugated weird stuff on my tailgate to make it impossible to put anything. But
Mhm.
it looks like finally there's aftermarket ones on Amazon for less than $100.
Nice.
That seems like a
You don't have to spend $250 on Mountain Gate or any of the ones that it's the same thing. It's a bunch of UHF&W plastic, whatever.
Yeah.
Cheap. Shouldn't be $200 because it's got cup holders. Well, who gives a fuck?
That's not, well, they're not even cup holders.
It's an
They're just like,
expensive cup holder.
I
little
have a cup holder
sunken
here.
in. It's like a little sunken in
That's
spot.
that's what the dealers do. This is bullshit. And even then, like, it's not where I want that cup holder.
Yeah.
But no, after doing the trail, I feel like exiting from that, do I need 35s? Do I need anything more? No, I think maybe, yes, a TK slider with an actual cross member there would be a $400 well spent. If I'm going to stay on 33s, it's an inevitability. Going to 35s and some additional lift, and I think it's eventually worth it when I have to step up or get new tires. It's well, should I look at spending the additional money and doing the cab mount and doing the things to shove a 35 in there and just call it good?
I mean, bigger tires.
Truck's not going anywhere.
I know it's 60,000 miles. It's not going anywhere. It's super. At this point, I feel like it's more of a capable rig than I am driver. Which, duh, no shit. But yeah,
I mean, ground clearance is so nice.
it's huge. So
through
do we
Cher's
think U-bolt flip would be
evolutions of
worthwhile?
Cher started on 31s, and then I went to 33s, and that was a game changer. And then recently, with the Dana 44 swap, happened into some 35s. Thanks, Colin, for that link. Holy crap. Like, it changes how you attack every obstacle, what you're capable of, what you feel you're capable of. The downside in my case is I need to start either lifting or cutting, and I am more apt to cut. The XJ being a unibody, that's the downside, is there's no option for like a body lift to do a quick, easy, when I eventually go to 37s, because I'm never getting rid of this truck. I've put too many dents in it. I've put too much work into it. I don't want to have to explain to a potential buyer why this is the way that it is, but it works really well. I just don't want to deal with it. So I'm going to be buried in Cher. And what I'm getting at is ground clearance. Steve, ground clearance. 37s, 40s, whatever it takes.
35.
But do we? I know also.
No, 40s.
I'm shoehorning this in because everyone's here. I saw a U-bolt flip kit that gives me also better bump stops that sit in the cup where that stock bump sits. Would something like that actually be worthwhile? I haven't even seen myself come anywhere close or felt myself hitting any of those hangers. But is that kind of clearance going to be actually something I'm going to notice?
I mean, it's something, and then you also have the like ability to just have that knowledge of, well, if I hit the axle on something, I'm not gonna torque over the end of one of those U-bolts that now I get to cut off if I ever want to
Mm-hmm.
put a different leaf spring in it or whatever.
Yeah.
Which obviously cutting it off isn't too, I mean, major of a deal either. But yeah, it's some trucks, those things hang a lot lower than others. I don't know what it's like exactly on the Tacomas.
Oh, Lauren.
Let's have
They're
a
not too
feature
bad
on
on
that.
the Tacoma, but I definitely have felt the difference between hitting it and having it catch on something where I then have to power over it. So it's like without that, it would have not have been an issue whatsoever. And also actually having bump stops versus a hockey puck you shove up in between the body and the axle.
My mentality with the third gen has always been, when it breaks, then I'll change it.
Yeah.
I haven't hit those yet, and they're so close to the tire. I mean, you got to really try.
No, that's the thing. Yeah. But if I were to go to bump stops, would buying an option that gives me both in the same function, would you guys not see that as, well, that's value, intrinsic?
I mean, yeah.
I think it
Everything
is.
has value.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a single thing,
bump
but
stops anyway, because I do feel like getting something for the rear there is going to be helpful no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Steve, go for it.
Your main
I didn't
goal
listen to any of the
should be-
conversation. I just got back.
Yeah.
Do it. Whatever it
I think
is.
the main goal for Steve is this time next year 35s. So you've got another,
Yeah.
get a full
Absolutely.
year in on the 33s, and then this time next year, because we have another very big trail run planned around this time next year that I won't allude to the details yet on, but we all know it. We'll get there. So would be good to have 35s for that one.
Well, then I'll shoot to cab mount shop and put 35s on.
Well, that's a great segue into one of the points I wanted to talk about on this trip is how the kids did. I mean, because one of my favorite parts
Yeah.
of the trip was when Miles sat on my lap next to the fire, gave me a hug, and said, "I love you, Uncle Jesse." I was just like, "Oh, my heart broke right there."
There's so much
Also,
stuff.
on the way out, he also looked at me
I'm
and
not
said, "You're going to have
crying.
the worst day ever." And I was like, "Whoa." But he did so like in a really enthusiastic way. So I was like, "Well, this could be a pretty cool day."
Steve could do no wrong in his eyes. Oh man,
I think the kids all did really well. I mean, considering that all of the adults were driving this 20 miles in under 7 hours, and that was really good. I think in our opinion anyway. That's
hmm
that's an arduous journey for a kid. Like, my son's 14, Harper is 10, and Miles is 3, 4 now. Holy
Oh
crap.
man, he's the terrible twos with 2 years experience.
And experience is key. No, I think all the kids did great. I mean, we hung out, did the trail. My son, he's pretty good about just being in the car. We've kind of been, I mean, I've been a car guy since before I was able to drive. But he's been with me in cars since he was born. So, and I think we can all say pretty much the same about our offspring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got stuck once with Seamus in the car once, and I I immediately got a little frustrated, and I look over, and he just looks at me and says, "Oh, we're stuck," and then goes back to playing Zelda on his Switch, and went, "You know what? things can't be so bad. Like,
Yeah.
no, this is fine. Everything's fine."
Miles fell asleep on a section of that, like semi-easy but still constant trail, where it wasn't like hard stuff anymore, but it wasn't, flat forest roads. And he fell asleep, and I noticed it because I heard his head hit the cooler on the side, and he's like strapped into a car seat and just full body flopping, just bam, bam. And I'm like, dude, are you okay? And he just doesn't even wake up. Slept for another hour and some change. But I was like, I'm gonna hurt that child. I gotta slow down, I guess.
That's a really
God.
good
He was
point.
concussed.
As parents, fortunately not.
That's why it's so good. That's why it was so good. Yeah.
As
Just so-
parents into wheeling, bring travel pillows. Bring
Oh, yeah.
the things that wrap around your neck. Bring those. Also, remember you're supposed to have them like the split part goes behind you, so you
It
can
goes in the back.
like chin down on it. That's how travel pillows work.
I know
So
this weekend was like my dad's birthday, and I was gonna, in the beginning, it was like, well, maybe I could bring my dad along this trip, and he'd have fun. And then I realized how much he was gonna get tossed around side to side, and realized that nah, by the end of this, like his neck would have been so sore.
Yeah.
it is. So the beginning of Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, when he's bouncing around, and then they zoom out and he's on a paved road.
Yeah.
It was that, but we're not on a paved road. It was legitimately that.
Yeah. You were hovering above your seat to get some sort of feedback gimbal type situation for your neck and skull.
Exactly. Some reprieve from the bouncing, hammering, physics beating the shit out of you.
Like at one point I contemplated, does cruise control work in 4 low?
Yes, crawl control.
2 feet to stand up and really get a brace.
You have crawl control. It does, and you do.
No, but I don't want a disco in my car where it's just yeah, like it sounds like everything is breaking, but it's like, no, that's just your ABS going off. It's like, no, that sounds like everything is breaking.
Colin, how did Harper do? I know that she kind of had, she got out at one point in time during the tippy part. How'd she do on the rest of the trail?
I mean, Harper's never been super into like the wheeling part of it. It kind of it gives her a little bit of a unsettled feeling, which is fine. I mean, it's it's not for everybody, obviously. So she would just get out and like walk or watch, because I mean there wasn't a ton of spots where they needed to do that at all. It was mostly just the big stuff. So they'd get out and just kind of watch from the side, just like all the rest of us. It was there was definitely some "boy, it's hot" complaints, which no surprise there. I didn't have AC, so that's that's an obvious, and we're not going fast enough for my cute little wing windows to really cool us down much. But I mean, aside from that,
Well, hot seemed to be preferable to awkward. Yeah, hot seemed to be preferable to awkward because I said, hey, you're welcome to sit in the front seat of the Jeep. We got AC and I got room there, and you can just sit in there and do the same thing. And they were just like, nope. And like nope. I will be hot before I sit in your Jeep. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
I am not surprised by that.
I was just being nice. They were not about it.
Mm-mm.
Well, she did seem to.
No, hold on. They started the weekend with me by informing me, like, hey, I'm not going to watch your kid this weekend. And I said, Harper? I know. Yeah, if you want to play with Miles, play with Miles. And while you're the big kid playing with him, like, absolutely, please keep an eye on him just so he doesn't get hurt. But I'll watch my kid. And they were just like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, I didn't like try and plan for a babysitter. And if I did, I'd pay you. Like,
Oh, that does remind me. So our first night camping, not even on the trail, but first night camping, getting near the trailhead, we're in the river and my son Seamus just cuts his foot. First thing,
oh yeah,
like 5 minutes in the water, steps on a rock, nice little 2-inch cut, not deep, but just enough to bleed. And I was like, oh man, is this how this weekend is gonna go? Fortunately, got it cleaned up. Uh, we all are pretty well prepared, so lots of good first aid kits, first aid supplies. But yeah, that was fortunately nothing important came from that. But I just,
no,
of
he didn't
course,
complain
the
about it again at
clumsiest
all.
kids between Mike and I, the clumsiest kids.
Yeah, what do you know?
I,
Miles went face first into the river trying to get away from a crawdad. Fell off a rock, landed on his face and arms, and he's like, "Oh, my chest a little bit." And I was like, "Buddy, your face has a bruise now." "Oh, my chest a little bit." "Okay, all right."
I
And
know
then he
he
wanted.
was trying to get away from me, even trying to help him, and he's like, "No, I'm gonna throw my face into this rock," and I'm like, "Dude, I can only help you. I can't. You're gonna hurt yourself." And you tried real hard, and you did.
No, that's one
Yeah.
of the big. That's one of the big things you've been working with him about is like he gets injured, he gets embarrassed, and he runs. And I'm like, you got to
Yeah.
stop running. Your finger is in like a funny position. I want to make sure it's not broken. Like, oh, just no, and just
No,
gone.
he
And
is
you're
the
like,
funniest little drunk person that's
God,
not
Yep.
drunk, like Tyson said earlier, that I have
God.
ever
Toddlers,
been
man.
around. There was a few times
Little
where I
drunk
literally
people.
like I was about to fall over in the river of laughter.
Yeah.
I will say Harper really did come into her own once we got to that last campsite, and she was just able to water dog it for like 8 hours straight.
Yep.
She was like, "All right, this is my element now."
Yeah.
I know,
We're
it
not
just
in the
reminds me of how I used to be as soon as you get near
That
water.
was, yeah, that was like one of the main reasons they wanted to come was because I was like, well, our camps should be, we should have some halfway decent river spots, I think. And so that's what sold
And we did.
them on going, and we had some pretty good spots on the water, and being able to, since we gave ourselves that extra day, once we finished, it was like, well, we got all day tomorrow to just like relax and hang out, which was great. I think that was a primo.
Yeah, that was great.
way to do
That was great.
Bravo,
Segueing
Colin.
off
That was a
that,
smart idea.
I feel like
That
in
was
the
the
future
best.
it can be easier to convince wives to be able to do that trip because you can pitch it as it's going to be 6 hours of this and then it's a day and a half of that. So sure, this basically was literally a
No.
camping trip. No, okay.
We just
That's-
had to get
Haley's
it
gonna-
soured out.
Yeah. Yeah,
still
no,
a tough
Haley's gonna watch the video and be like, "Fuck that."
I showed Anna a video, and I was like, "Honey, you would have hated this." And I started telling her about it, and I showed her some video. She's like, "Yeah, I never want to go on that."
Yeah,
I might not be
showed
able to bring
Kate
Miles next time.
just some of the video of me following. I think I was following you, Jesse, and just the wheels just bouncing, one after the other, up and down and up and down, and she just went, "Nope."
Uh,
Well, we're kind of getting short on time. I do have one question that I feel like I want to hear from everybody individually on, and that is, has this trail taught you anything about yourself and your rig? And is there any changes that you want to make for the future? Because we're not necessarily doing the McGrew next year, but we have our trail leader alluding to another trail next year that we need to get prepped for. So
I think Mike should go first.
I was gonna say I'll start with the cheater chassis,
Cheater chassis,
over
go
here.
first, yeah. Well, he won't have it.
You know,
at that
I'll,
point, so
yeah, who's to say?
It'll already
The
be
Geo
sold.
Metro I plan to bring. No,
Tag this.
yeah,
Mark this spot. Geo Metro.
yeah.
Is that
Um,
geotagging, Tyson?
Yeah,
oh,
geotagging.
so I got to get wheels because I'm too narrow in my wheels, so I can air down further and not worry about it. Um, and I need to go back through and all the things that the previous owner did, which is the whole lift, all the control arms, all that. I need to go grease everything. I need to pull it apart. I need to blue Loctite the nuts because I mean, if my track bar let go at the wrong time, like at highway speeds trying to pass a semi, that would have been a whole different story than, oh, yeah, it's kind of funny. I was down to 2 bolts on a 6 bolt fucking track bar mount. Um, so that is the number one thing. Number two, I'd like to build a little bit better of a loadout. Right now, I just folded half the seat down and shoved a bunch of stuff in there. For the next big trip, I think that depending on if Miles is going with me or not, I can kind of plan a little bit better around what I'm going to do in the Jeep. Um, that's about it. Otherwise, I got some oil leak I got to chase down and fix. I got an exhaust leak I got to chase down and fix. My steering angle sensor is mad, so hopefully the alignment will fix that. But if not, then it's probably a clock stringing and steering wheel. And so I've got some stuff to do, but it's mostly just tighten it down. I mean, if you can't take uh, Jeep Wrangler JK Rubicon uh, on 37s on a trail, then that trail's a buggy trail. Uh, so, so I think
Motorcycle
I'll
trail.
probably be
Pretty fair.
yeah. No, I'm not mad about it. It was so much fun to just be the guy that could do the thing, and I got to try a little bit harder stuff and harder lines in certain spots. That was kind of fun to be able to do that. Um, and I know the old adage of the more capable the rig, the harder you get stuck, and the further down the trail you get stuck. But uh, I just want to keep beating on it and see what's weak, get that stuff knocked out.
Cool.
I loved my tent
Tyson.
cot. It was great.
Tent cop seemed to work really well. That was pretty sweet, Mike.
Oh
Tyson,
man,
how about you?
So I will say one thing I'd like to do differently is try more harder lines. I granted in the shakedown I've referenced with Mike several times now.
great time.
Share is that 3? Well, let's keep that count up. Cher is super capable. She had open diffs for a long time and was still capable-ish. Now with the lunchbox in the back, maybe I'll get a lunchbox for the front. Just budget is the goal. Most wheels spinning is also the goal. I think try harder lines. I'd like to try more hard stuff. And like Mike says, the harder the line, the more stuck you get, or more capable rig. I want to see how capable this thing is. I want to see how stuck I can get, and make sure I have my buddies to always pull me out. Right. Or how broken. I got hammers, man. I'm bringing the hammer. I'm bringing the pry bar. That's all I need.
Yeah, the shakedown run we got you real stuck, and then McGrew you got to fix the fuel pump with a hammer.
Yeah. Yep. Fix
Which
the
I
fuel pump
believe-
with a hammer. Put it in 4-low with a pry bar. Yeah.
Yeah. The Macno guy's gonna love you.
No, he's not. I only need 2 tools. He's not gonna sell me shit.
Do a real expensive hammer and a real expensive pry bar.
Yeah.
Have you
Worth more
seen
than
the
a Jeep.
socket set? No,
Yeah.
I don't need a
No,
socket
I don't want
set.
that.
I got
Where's
a
your
hammer.
hammers, dude?
Any of them fiberglass? Yeah.
Steve, I know we kind of touched on you did definitely touch on this point, but I think the first part of the question really pertains to you is that have you learned anything about yourself and your rig on this trail that will better prepare you for the future?
I would say the biggest thing I learned about myself would be to just in general stay more in the moment, because that's where the opportunity is. Not get too squirrely about where we're going to be tonight, what time we're going to get there, how long is left, yada yada. It doesn't matter. Worry about the next rock, the next ledge, the next corner, the next switchback, the next corner. Not anything else. Other than my rig, an inch of ground clearance is an inch of fucking ground clearance. When your diff is a lot closer to the ground than you expect sometimes.
Rear diff explode rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even a diff. That's just T-case. Just I feel like it's because I came over that lip and my tires came down and it was just right onto the T-case. And then forward, no good.
Well, I was on the side. It rolled that rock on your T case with you, and then back, and then forward a little bit again, and then back off of it. So like you just were.
So I hit it twice.
You're
You were
talking about
completely
something different, Mike. You're talking about
turbulent.
something totally different.
This is
That was
the in the Supple,
first
right?
rock. That was entry rock.
You're talking about the entry rock, Mike. When I told him to stop, back up,
Yeah.
and then got him up higher. We're talking about his exit.
Oh.
He blew up the rock.
Yeah, when he blew the rock
The
up.
one I
Okay.
took with me completely.
No, that
Entry rock
entrance
was front
rock that I
diff,
saw.
Exit rock was T case.
Yes.
And yes, that is actually a very good point. But that was a very good, memorable moment, Mike, of watching Steve start to pick that rock up and get higher. It's like, no, stop.
And he brought the third wheel up on the back and came back down. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I think Steve had the biggest.
Just as a
It could
quick,
have made for a very steep entry angle, like a very uncomfortably steep entry angle.
Oh, I thought you said
Yeah,
a
for
Steve
sure.
entry angle.
no, it's very Steve.
Well, that too.
So Steve. I know I was
Steve
gone for a minute, but I want to bring it up because Steve followed me through a lot of stuff as we were driving, and I kept thinking I was like I should get on the radio and tell Steve I'm going to do something stupid and not to follow me, to follow the line. And then I would by the time I got the radio up, Steve's halfway through the stupid thing I chose to do, and he's doing just fine. And so finally I was just like, you know what? Steve is the golden driver of the weekend. He took a truck
100% driver of the day for sure.
And just like
I had the
especially
same
being
experience. I'd look like driving and I'm like, oh shit, this is a little more sketchy than I thought. Grab my radio after like collecting myself after getting rocked and rolled and almost hit the side window, and Steve's 2 feet off my rear bumper, just following me. Just killing it.
I can't tell you not to do it. You already did it. Okay.
Yeah,
you don't need to back up. I'll just bump you.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of that, Tyson did back into me one time trying to use his new clutch. So I'm happy to be here.
New clutch feel was different.
But also,
I pulled right up. It was after the e-brake debacle, and he had no e-brake anymore. And so I was like, I'll get real close to you. That way, if anything happens, you don't have very far to go. And I got real close to him, and he went to go again uphill and just went, boom, boom. And Miles was like, what's that? And I said, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll start assist.
Yeah,
right.
come stock with every JK friend.
But also, all the food prep that I did last minute worked out really nice. Having an awning and all the grill space worked out pretty nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Steve.
That cooktop was mint.
Great food.
And knowing what you guys want individually now helps as well.
Oh man, individual menus.
He's got notes for food allergies.
Well, no, because it's not
like.
It's a matter of like, well, Mike doesn't want cheese, and you're like, well, you have hash browns without cheese on it.
I want cheese. I so badly want cheese. Not in the cards, man.
We're pooping in
butthole.
luxury
No
now,
want cheese.
So a little lactose might not be.
I chose to eat your American cheese, and I almost died next to the river the next day. All right, and it was worth it, and then it wasn't.
This is a family podcast, Steve, or my family podcast.
Yeah, Steve. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So off Mike's shit topic, um, Colin, I
Still
want to pose
wiping.
that question to you as well because you have the newest rig of the group. Well, other than
Uh-uh.
Mike, but other than
Not
Mike who has a cheater chassis. I definitely want to hear about the Waggy and your feelings if you learned I know you have experience in wheeling, but maybe you learned a little more about yourself with the newer rig and how you want to proceed through the future with the Waggy, and if there's some goals that you have in mind.
I think for me, a lot of it, like I mentioned before, is better prep for the actual camping side of it. Um, but when it comes to the wheeling stuff, I think um, visibility and awareness of just the sheer size of it is going to be a little bit of a learning curve. Uh, but I definitely with with that's the hardest wheeling I've done in it so far, obviously. And there were definitely some spots where I'm like, I kind of wish I would have waited and had someone maybe give me a better spot because maybe I could have avoided uh, denting my rear overhang. Um, but I mean, that's part of the game. That just kind of is what it is. But yeah, I think a lot of that's just going to be getting used to it. It did really good for only having a limited slip. Um, I don't really have many complaints other than AC, I guess. But that has nothing to do with how well it wheels.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yes, it
So
does. Driver fatigue,
Mike,
man.
I see you have your hand up.
I'm
Mike
trying to
has
be
his hand
polite.
up. You are.
So Colin, I'm just interested because I haven't. I thought about this while driving and forgot to ask you while we were camping. Compared to if you'd have brought the range, do you think you'd have been able to do the same lines in the range that you were doing on the truck? Is one more or
No
less
way. No
capable? Like,
way.
how do you feel about that?
I
That was interesting to me because you went from like woo to woo um, with that.
I I think the Range Rover would have done it. I think that I would have taken the Steve and Tyson line on that first obstacle because the
Yeah.
34s and how much wheel lift that thing liked to do. I don't think it would have been a great time on that, but I think it would have done
Yeah,
everything else fine. It just would have been lifting
Yeah.
wheels in almost every
Almost
situation
as
because
much as me.
that's what they do. Yeah.
Yeah. Any of the
yeah.
spots that would have been side tippy wouldn't have that range seemed like it was dramatic, but it was you expected all the drama that came from it.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I was just thinking about that while we were driving. I forgot to ask because like you really did a very big jump from one side to the other, from your like cooled seats and your champagne chiller to no AC uh, and a wagon. So
Yeah. I mean, it's still a
Yeah, that was a really
luxury
good point,
SUV,
Mike.
but it's more of a brute force luxury SUV rather than the refined
yeah,
Yeah,
luxury.
it's 30 years older.
yeah,
Yeah. Luxury of the future.
yeah. You went from Muhammad Ali to Kimbo Slice.
Yeah. It's got power windows. Yeah. Wow. Holy shit.
Luxury.
Bonnie Chantarelle.
How do I drop the
Luxury.
tailgate? Well, you lower the window first.
Hold on, Jesse. Did you learn
Silt.
anything about yourself on the trail, or like
No.
think about your rig that you wanted to make a difference of? Because it's weird to
Yes.
ask yourself a question.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking me that
Out
question,
loud,
Mike.
anyway.
Out loud, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Am
Yeah.
I fucking weird?
no. I definitely learned more of the limitations of that Tacoma after I got stuck in that first little bump. I was like, damn it, I thought I
And
could do this better.
unstuck by a Jeep.
And unstuck by a Jeep. God damn it.
Yeah.
Jeeps won the
Yeah.
weekend, by the way. The Jeeps
Um,
won
right.
the weekend. I don't know if you touched that,
I
but the
don't
Jeeps
I
all
don't know
weekend.
about that. I've the Jeeps might have taken the most podiums, but you know what? The podiums are to Steve, Tyson, and Colin. Honestly, Mike, you and I, we might have
Oh yeah,
finished pole position, but we're just ancillary characters to the three main characters of this trip, which were Colin, Tyson, and Steve.
oh yeah. I took all the hardest lines, but yeah, you go ahead. Say what you were gonna say.
Oh, I was just gonna say,
Oh,
I've
sorry.
got
I took all the hard lines that you guys wouldn't take. Go ahead then. Sorry. Say what you're gonna say.
There was just you literally took one
I have
No,
a
I'm sorry.
pile of
I'm the only
Jesus
one that took
Christ, Mike.
the
I'm gonna
hardest lines
fucking punch
out of
Would you
on 20
expect it?
you.
pounds
Know
of
what?
pressure in the
Most
tires all
You know
weekend.
what?
So tell me about how Toyotas did fine.
Again, guess what? I have actually now gonna punch you in the face. It's taken you actually punching me in the face. I didn't punch you, but now after 3 times of interrupting, I might punch you.
So should it also get the credit for most lockers, nearly most lift, most lifted tires,
Yep,
most capable?
sure.
Good.
Most red.
Yeah.
Ah,
Most red. Yeah.
By
Let's just
far the
keep
reddest
adding the
Jeep.
category.
Yeah.
lowest
So
low range.
well,
Jeeps took the weekend.
I have a giant pile of shit. When I unloaded my truck, I literally pulled everything out of the Tacoma. I have not a single thing left in it except for the things that are being sold with it.
Raw dog,
It's
raw dog,
full
raw
dog,
dog.
raw dog, raw dog.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
we're doing.
So it did so
And
bad that you had to
I would,
sell
as
it.
much as I wish I would have taken raw dog in this trip, I would have been a little bit nervous going down that hill because I got a bad clunk and the brakes aren't great.
Yeah. Well, and some of that
Yeah,
that
that would have
narrow
been
spot
sketchy.
was really narrow.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Brutally narrow, which is weird because hey, Mike, how wide is the Tacoma versus the Suburban?
No, I think your raw dog is about twice as wide, right?
Get fucked.
Did we settle on 3? So like raw dog would touch Idaho and the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
The Tacoma is just about what, like 70 inches, 71 inches.
Yeah.
It's only about the Black Sea.
Yeah,
You would have been in California on a few corners.
yeah.
But we did cross into California, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. We
Nah,
did
Yeah.
cross into
shit.
California.
That ruins the weekend.
Yep.